From the OU TV Broadcast Center in Los Angeles, California, this is Brief News Brief, a brief look at today's trending news topics, proudly combating the thought police since 2016. Here's your host, James Heaney.
I'm James Heaney, and this is your Brief News Briefing. On Wednesday, a political earthquake struck when Justice Anthony Kennedy announced that he'd be retiring from the Supreme Court. This opens up a second seat appointment for President Trump in the short 18 months that he's been president. Think about it. Obama was president for 8 years, only got 2 picks the whole time. Immediately after the announcement, political war roared to life in Washington. Democrats face an enormous challenge if they even hope to prevent President Trump and this Republican Congress from installing a conservative justice. A conservative justice added now, it would shift the ideological balance of the Supreme Court for generations to come. And Trump already said, while on the campaign trail, that he intended to appoint a justice who would overturn Roe versus Wade. And many Republicans admitted to putting up their nose, holding it up, and voting for Trump in the 2016 elections only based on the Supreme Court pick. Mitch McConnell famously blocked Obama's nomination of Merrick Garland, making the Supreme Court pick an election issue. So, well, it's an election year, so same rules, right? I mean, we couldn't have picked Merrick Garland because so many voters wanted their voices heard. So that must be the case now. Of course not. Republicans have no shame in changing the rules for something that will politically benefit them. Democratic lawmakers and liberal activists have vowed to mount a vigorous fight in hopes of preserving decades of liberal court precedences on abortion rights, civil rights, gay rights, affirmative action, and the death penalty. The 2018 midterm elections just became the most consequential election of our lifetimes, and we voted for the first African-American president. We need to turn out like never before this November. And that's why Brief News Brief is proud to announce that we have joined the effort to glam up the midterms. Yeah. Only 12% of young people voted during the last midterms elections. If that happens again this fall, not voting is the equivalent of voting to lose democracy as we know it. Stay informed, America. A federal judge has given the Trump administration 30 days to reunify thousands of families separated by immigration agents at the U.S.-Mexico border, and ruled that U.S. immigration agents can no longer separate children from their parents. The ruling came late Tuesday evening in a lawsuit brought to you by the ACLU. The government must reunite parents separated from their children if they're younger than 5 years old within 14 days. If they're 5 years or older, they have 30 days to reunite them. The federal judge also issued a ban on any involuntary deportation of people without their children, and ordered the government to put parents who have yet to speak with their children since being separated at the border in telephone contact with their kids within 10 days. More than 2,300 immigrant children were separated from their parents through this Trump administration zero-tolerance policy immigration practice. This appears to have started back in November, not recently in May when we've been hearing about it. Sure, in May it was official and in full progress, then shut down in June. The Trump administration has 30 days. Is it even possible for them to have the ability to clean up this mess within that court-ordered timeline? There's going to be a lot of logistical challenges to executing that. There are children being held in shelters across the United States. They're not all along the border. Many of them are thousands of miles from the border. Many immigrant parents say that they haven't been able to locate their children because the parents don't have their A number, their alien number. There's no way to track them. They were never given the numbers. Like if you have a baby born in a hospital, you got a bracelet with a number matches to your kid. That was supposed to be going on with an A number matching to your kids. They don't even have those things. Plus, there's an unknown number of parents who've already been deported from the U.S. without their children. The government is seeking to have family detention quarters set up on military bases, possibly including Camp Pendleton. But it's unknown how soon these facilities are going to be up and running. Meanwhile, protests are expected today through the weekend as outrage continues to spread about the controversial, to say the least, immigration methods. The federal judge who made the ruling said that there's going to be a status conference on the case scheduled to be held on July 6th at 12 p.m. I can tell you I'll be tuned in. Today, Trump attended the groundbreaking of the new FoxConn plant in Racine County, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Hundreds of construction machines are in place to transform the landscape in the next few years. The plant is being built over Mount Pleasant, where dozens of residents sold their home in the last month to the state so they can be demolished for the new plant. The plant is expected to cost $10 billion and bring 13,000 jobs to the area. Taxpayers will be roughly footing half the bill at $4.5 billion, and there's an additional $4.5 billion of tax incentives to FoxConn, which will make it the largest giveaway of tax incentives to a foreign company in U.S. history. Trump said it will become one of the largest developments ever built in the world, with 20 million square feet. Oh, I'm sorry, I might cry. I just can't believe it. It's hard to even imagine something that big and huge. Trump and other officials, including Governor Scott Walker and Speaker of the House Paul Ryan, wielded gold-toned shovels at a ceremonial groundbreaking. I wish I could have been there. Taiwan-based FoxConn is the world's largest electronics manufacturer, and they assemble Apple iPhones and other electronic products for different companies. The Wisconsin Legislative Fiscal Bureau recently studied the project's profit timeline, and they came to a funny conclusion. I bet you're not going to believe it, but it turns out they came to the conclusion that the plant's not going to generate any revenue for Wisconsin until the year 2042. We're not even going to be alive anymore as a race, right? Probably not at this rate. The CEO of FoxConn has already made it clear that he wants to see robots building phones, not people. In fact, while Trump was there, you can look behind him. He was out there looking at the prototype, and you can see robots in the background as if nobody notices that they're working back there. This is the beginning of the robot revolution. It's a date. President Trump and Vladimir Putin are going to get together and have a summit on July 16th. But wait. I thought there was a general consensus amongst the intellectual community and all the Americans that Russia attacked the 2016 election in the greatest assault on our democracy since 9/11, right? Well, Trump said, Russia continues to say that they had nothing to do with the meddling in our election. So this is the way of the world now. We don't listen to our democratic institutions. We listen to what the unabashed, notorious lying President Trump says on his Twitter feed. Pompeo said, I'm confident when the president meets with Vladimir Putin, he'll make clear that meddling in our elections is completely unacceptable. I suppose, in the words of the president, we'll just have to wait and see. The summit will take place in Finland, and the agenda will be decided in the coming weeks. It's expected that Putin and Trump will issue a plan for improving bilateral relations. Some are calling it the main international event of the summer. The Russian summit date falls just days after the NATO meeting on July 11th and 12th in Brussels. The summit, Putin will be directly after this NATO meeting, threatening to further rupture Trump's relationships with the European leaders. While traveling overseas in Europe, Trump is also planning a weekend of golf in Scotland. Trump happens to own 2 golf courses. Which one's he going to go to? How fancy! Oh, it's being reported that he plans to play with a professional golfer or possibly a member of the royal family.